and lost his faith in Christianity and actually ended up writing a refutation of the Christian religion, an examination of the grounds of the Christian religion, which was a bestseller in the United States of America. George English Bethune was appointed a special envoy by the President James Madison and sent to Egypt. When he arrived to Egypt, he resigned his commission in the Marines, joined the Pasha's army, converted to Islam, and with Ismail Pasha went up the Nile to subdue the Funj Sultanate, which was a Sanar, they called it. It was an independent Nubian sultanate that the Ottomans wanted to bring in to Egyptian control. George Bethune English wrote a narrative. The reason I discovered this, I was reading the correspondence between Jefferson and Adams, and they read this book and they mentioned this book in their correspondence. Jefferson asked Adams, have you read George English's his travel dialogue, Up the Nile River? I was like, wow. And then in the footnote it said, this man converted to Islam and ended up in Egypt. So I looked him up. There he is on Google. And on Google, they actually say he arrives in Egypt, converted to Islam. And then in brackets, they put as a formality. And I found no evidence. And I'll give you the evidence that he was a Muslim. He ends his narrative when he was in the village of Cebu in Nubia. He had a young boy with him that was serving him. And he got so sick that when the caravan left, they left this boy behind to die. When he found this out, they got to the village of Cebu, he found this out, and he said, where was the boy? And they said, oh, he was left. And he said, why? And he said, because he was too sick to travel with us. And George English was so distressed by this. He said, no, you have to go back and get this boy. And they said, there's no point, there's no hope for him. He said, if this was a Christian, we would have 40 men go back and get this boy. And then he convinced the sheikh of the village, and he spoke Arabic. He convinced the sheikh to send somebody. He traveled on to Aswan. When he got to Aswan, he writes, and this is how he ends his narrative, and you can read this online. He ends his narrative, and this was a bestseller in the United States of America. He ends his narrative by saying, 3 days after I arrived in Aswan, I met a Nubian traveler who had found the boy. He told me he found him, he had fallen into a ravine and he was nearly dead. And he helped him, he gave him food, he took him on his camel, he brought him to the village, and the boy died and he buried him. And I said to this man, I promised a reward for anyone who would help that boy, and I want to give you that reward. And he said, quote, to my astonishment, he said, I don't want your reward because I didn't do it for you. I did it for one who can give me a much greater reward than you could ever give me. I did it for my God. And this George English ends his narrative by saying, I said to this man, I am so pleased to meet a true Muslim who is following the precepts of the Quran that demands people act charitably and with benevolence to people in distress. This is how he ends his book, that I am happy to meet a true Muslim who acts according to the precepts of the Quran. This is the Ulu Baqiyah, the people of constancy, who have become too far between and too few in the Muslim Ummah today. And this is what we as Muslims in the United States of America have to become, the people of Ulu Baqiyah, the people that are constant in the virtues and the uprightness of our tradition, as well as the best of America, because that's what George English represents. He represents the best of this country. And that Nubian man that he met, who we don't know his name, he said to that man, in ending his narrative, he said, I am assured that this deed of yours will fill a great space on the blank page of our good deeds on the day of judgment. And that's how he ends his book. Our page